What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. Welcome into this edition of Broncos Breakdown Live, which airs every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central Time, 3 p.m. Mountain Time. It is great to be with you guys. A very interesting edition of Broncos Breakdown Live, which we'll talk about here in just a second. But as always, we got to let everybody kind of cycle in. Shout out your city. Where are you watching from? I want to see cities. I want to see places. I don't care if it's in your mom's basement. I want to know exactly where you're watching from. Let's get in the chat. Broncos fans. Ernie saying, go Broncos country only. Absolutely, my friend. Peep the brand new merch, my friends. New Broncos gear dropped at Moose's house. And you know where I got it from. Got it from the guys at Fanatics, which, of course, we got special deals going on for you with our friends over at Fanatics, which we'll get to later on in the show as we get into our segments. Ernie is watching from San Diego, California. We got 27 people watching and only 3 people stating where they're watching from. T-Mac watching from North Carolina. Montclair, California from Sixto. Go Broncos, he says. Citizen says San Diego. Jamie says San Diego. 2 back-to-back San Diegos is crazy. H-Town, hold it down. Broncos fan here from Zachary. Edmund says go Broncos from Houston. That's 2 Houstons, Dylan. Back-to-back, we got producer Dilly on the 1s and 2s. Dylan, say what's up to all of the great Broncos fans in the section below.
What's up, all Broncos country?
Look at Dylan popping out today.
It's another Tuesday, so it's another time to cover the Broncos, which we all love.
Yes. Dylan, for those of you who don't know, is the producer for Vikings Now and for the Jets channel. And we got some insanity going on with the Sauce Gardner deal, right? Which we'll talk about here in just a second. But Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson both signing massive contract extensions today, and one other AFC West player who we'll get here in just a second. But we got a DB4L from Bossman J. Bang! Spam those Boss Man J's down in the chat, coming in with the $50 super chat. He says, what up, Moose? Good Tuesday afternoon. Broncos baby is 5 weeks and 5 days old as of today. How would we go about sponsoring Broncos Breakdown? That's a great question. I don't know what you mean. Are you talking about like in the sense of sending in super chats, or like if you mean like actually sponsoring the show? Because I'm kind of confused here. Maybe it's like a special shout out that you're looking for. Let me know in the chat below, boss man, see what you're kind of going with. But again, appreciate the $50 super chat. That is an insane way to start the show, producer Dylan. What do you say? Huh?
No better way to start it.
That is an unbelievable way to start it. A $50 super chat right off the bat is crazy work, my friends. Atlanta, Georgia from 23 Jordan. Pono says, Oahu, Hawaii, aloha. Colorado Springs from Dakota. Bossman's watching from the Twin Cities. The Twin Cities is in Minnesota. I'm going to be there for my my bachelor party, which, believe it or not, is coming up this weekend, my friends. So, wish me a hell of a good time at my bachelor party. You only get one of those, theoretically. So this will be my one and only bachelor party coming up this weekend. I leave Thursday night. Firestone, Colorado from Matthew. David says, presently living in South Louisiana. Go Broncos. Glenn is watching from Howard Wick, Texas. Living room chair. That's a very specific way of talking about where you're watching from. I love it. Keep spamming in the chat down below. T-Max says, congratulations, Moose. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's going to be a lot of fun with the boys this weekend. And then, obviously, week one, for those of you who have just joined the chat. Excuse me, I apologize. I do get married week 1 of the NFL season, so I will not be here to cover the entirety of the watch party for the Broncos versus Titans. However, I will be here later on to kind of recap the game. So I'll definitely get a video out for you guys on week 1's game. I just won't be able to do the watch party. But I did get good news. You ready for the good news? I think you're going to like this. Dylan, I know you're going to like this. We just got confirmation from the bosses that 16 out of the 17 games, because obviously week 1, I won't be here getting married, 16 out of the 17 Broncos games, we are going to be live on the channel doing full watch party. Something that last year wasn't necessarily the case. Didn't go live for every single Broncos game. 16 out of 17 games we're going to be going live for on the channel. I cannot wait. Dylan, I'm in a great mood because of that $50 super chat. How about you message those rookies that are sitting out in the bullpen right now? Let's see if we can get those guys in here to make some deals before we start. This is a wicked way to start the show. I am fired up. Fired up. $50 is crazy. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we do have some new Chat Sports hires that are currently sitting out in the bullpen right now. 4 of them, to be exact, just started this week. So I did make a promise to some of them that if they wanted to come in on the Broncos Breakdown and experience their first live show, they could come in, say hello to the chat, and make a couple of deals if you guys are willing to have them on. They're all a bunch of really great guys, eager to learn the Chat Sports way and to jump in and start working as quickly as possible. Payton says, super proud of you, man. Keep being successful. Keep being successful. All right, let's do this. Let's talk a little bit about the most recent news here that happened in the AFC West. So I do have to mention it because it's AFC West news. Does it affect the Broncos? Not directly, but it should be noted that Pro Bowl guard Trace Smith and the Chiefs reached an agreement just ahead of today's franchise tag deadline on a 4-year, $94 million deal that includes $70 million guaranteed. If you guys just want to walk behind the camera there real quick, we'll have you in on just a second. So that's a $70 million guaranteed deal. Now, why does that matter? Well, last year the Chiefs' offensive line was dog water, booty cheeks, and they got rid of Joe Thuney. So a lot of people were believing that if they didn't lock down Trace Smith, they were going to be in for a hell of a ride because that is a basically rebranding and restructuring of the Chiefs' offensive line. But they ended up getting the deal done. Honestly, it's a good move on their part considering Trace Smith is probably the best guard in the entirety of the NFL. But we don't care here because we only care about things that affect the Broncos, and this doesn't mean jack. But here's what I will say. Spam ready if you're ready for a shout out on today's show. If you want a shout out right now, we got 50 people in the building watching right now. Spam those readies. We're going to bring on some of the new guys coming in here. Broncos country, let's give a big warm welcome to Casey and Xavier, 2 of the new dudes that are on the Chat Sports team. What's going on, boys? How are we? Oh, they're okay. Relax. This is Bo Nick's country now. All right, so here's what I did say was going to happen. Obviously, we started off the show with a bang. $50 super chat came in immediately. What is a deal that you guys want to make here on the show for your very first live show here on the Broncos Breakdown? Go ahead.
We have an idea. So since you already have one $50 super chat, why not try to go for 2? Okay, maybe we could get one more super chat for $50. And Moose, right here, we have a 4 Loko in the kitchen in the fridge.
Oh,
that sound
God! I'll do it. $50. If we get a $50 one, I'll bring in the 4 Loko and I'll start chugging it. How about that? How does that sound? That we'll get another bang going in here. Let's get it going. Okay, so $50 super chat. This is the rookie deal, only good for today's show. We won't limit it to right this moment. We'll talk about it throughout the entire show. If we get another $50, so if we get up to $100, I'm bringing in a 4 Loko. I'll start chugging. We also have a a happy hour event that we're going to later tonight for the company. So we're already going to be starting pretty early. We got one $50 super chat. We get one more. I'll start chugging the 4 locos. Okay. Get those readies in there. 23 says ready. Chase says ready. Michael says ready. Pono, he says ready. Matthew says ready. T-Mac, what's going on? He says, hello there, fellas. How are we? Edmund says ready. All right. Producer Dylan, what do we got on the show today? Bring it on screen. Boom, there it is. Let's talk about what we've got on the show planned for you today. Some projected starting defenses before training camp, which officially begins tomorrow, if we're being quite honest, because obviously the rookies report tomorrow, but then next week is when the veterans are going to show up. So I decided to kind of break down the entirety of the Broncos roster on today's show. We're going to project the starting defenses, then probably tomorrow or Thursday, we'll project the starting offensive lineup with backups as well. The Broncos offense gets some game-changing news. And then, of course, we've got a Broncos mailbag that we're going to get into. Make sure you use hashtag Broncos or Super Chat. That's the rules. That's what we're doing here, Producer Dylan. We've got the projected starting defenses before camp. We got the game-changing news on offense, and then getting your Super Chat questions in there or your regular questions with hashtag Broncos. Okay, remember, $50, the next $50, so it doesn't have to be all in one. But if we get up to 100, I'm going to start chugging that 4 loco, making the deals happen today, fired up, feeling good on a Tuesday. Dylan, I am ready to get the show on the road. What say you? Ready. All right. So we're going to get into our very first segment here, which is all about, once again, excuse me, let me fix my microphone here because I feel like it's getting a little bit further away from my face, Dylan. We're going to do projecting the starting lineup for the defense before training camp. We're officially one day away from the rookies reporting to Broncos training camp, which is the official mark, at least in my opinion, of the 2025 NFL season. Welcome in Broncos country to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and on today's episode, we are projecting the starting defense heading into training camp. Sometime later this week, we will project the starting lineup with the offenses. Now, before we start that, little off-season check-in. The bosses came to me and they were like, it's the middle of July. It's the official lowest part of the dead period for the NFL. We want to check in and see how you're doing on your subscribers. Now, we're doing okay for July. I won't lie, it's not great, but it's not terrible. If you're new to the channel and you want to become a part of the Broncos Breakdown family, lock us in by hitting that free subscribe button. You're going to get daily Broncos videos every single day on every topic surrounding the latest news and rumors on the Denver Broncos. Now, 12 defensive starters. And I threw in a little caveat there as well. I put in the 12 backups as well because we talk a lot about the starters, but we have to also mention the guys that are going to get in as a rotational piece. So let's start with the hog mollies up front. Let's go with the defensive line. And clearly, these are your starting 3, right? I don't think Broncos fans really have any qualms about these 3. And in fact, you're going to notice something. The majority of the guys that we have as the starters, there's not a lot of, parity from last year, considering the Broncos brought back 86% of their lineup from last year. This was one of the teams that really didn't make too many huge additions in the offseason, considering how special they were last year on the defensive side of the ball. So let's go back to the starters and their backups for just a second. Obviously, your starters are going to be Zach Allen, DJ Jones at nose tackle, and John Franklin Myers. Your backups, who I've listed with that parentheses on the B, I've got Savion Jones, the rookie, behind Zach Allen. I've got Malcolm Roach as the nose tackle behind DJ Jones, and I've got Iyomo Uwazurike as the backup to John Franklin Myers. Now, this unit is obviously led by one Zach Allen, a guy who I've called the core piece of this defensive line, somebody that I would pay whatever he wants, whenever he wants. If he came to me today, if I was George Payton and said, I want my $120 million contract, I'd have a hard time saying no. Why? Because when it comes to production on the field and what he brings to this Broncos defensive line, he's clearly the best defensive lineman. And it's not particularly close. The stats don't really do it justice. I've said this at nauseum on the channel. I've talked about Zach Allen nonstop. It's clear this guy is electric, and he deserves that next contract with the Broncos. So we're not going to get into what kind of money he deserves, or should he get extended or should he not get extended. We know what he's worth. We know what he brings to the table. But it is highlighted, of course, by one Zach Allen, and 2025 should prove to be an unbelievable season for him. Let's go to the linebackers, shall we? Now, the linebackers, you have to kind of lump in Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, although they play more like edges. But technically, if you were to break down what their position is on paper, it's an outside linebacker. They play off ball. Cooper and Bonito, though, you're more stereotypical edges. Now, Alex Singleton and Dre Greenlaw are going to be your inside linebackers. So, what does the list look like for the starters, and who are the backups? Jonathan Cooper, Bonito, Greenlaw, Singleton. Obviously, those are the four guys that are going to end up getting the nod at the starting position. I have Jonah Ellis at outside linebacker behind Cooper. I have got Dondre Tillman behind Nick Bonito. I've got Justin Stranad behind Dre Greenlaw, and Drew Sanders behind Alex Singleton. So who's the main piece that we have to look at in the linebackers? Well, it's Dre Greenlaw. Why? He's brand new. And coming off of the injuries, he's one of those players that the NFL has recognized as probably having the most impact if he remains fully healthy for the entirety of the season. All records indicate, at least right now, that he should. But if we look back at the last 4 years, that's been a question mark. And again, we've talked about it on the channel. Not something that we need to rehash about those injuries. However, I will say that when he is on the field and he is fully healthy, you're looking at one of the best in the NFL, period. That's why the Broncos gave him a massive contract. So if you believe that this lineup looks pretty accurate so far, according to Moose, make sure you let me know in the comment section down below. Yes or no? I think, like I said, this is pretty straightforward. The Broncos defense is pretty much locked up, guaranteed. There's a couple of changes that I made on the back end, but not too many big ones. But let's start, of course, with the first major change, which we have on our Broncos cornerback depth chart. Right now, not updated yet, but that will change. It will change because you'll see here in just a second that I don't have Jaquan McMillan starting at the nickel corner slot. In fact, who do I have starting at the nickel corner slot? Jahdae Barron. Now, again, this is because you drafted him in the first round with the 20th overall pick. You have to start him. It's almost like if he's healthy, you got to put him out there. You got to see what he's able to do. You don't take a guy at 20th overall if he's a major project, right? You picked him because you believe that he can start week 1 in the nickel corner slot. That's not to say that Jaquan McMillan won't come in early and often. In fact, I feel like for the first couple of weeks, you're going to see a nice rotation of the two. But make no mistake about it, this is Jahdae Barron's position. This is his spot. It's his to lose. You don't take him at 20 in order for him to ride the bench. This isn't like a quarterback position where you can allow him to sit for 8 weeks and then just throw him in there. Corner is one of the positions, along with wide receiver and running back, that should be the most NFL ready week 1. And the last couple of years at Texas, incredible. He got better every single year that he played, especially in 2024 in his coverage grades. His on-ball skills with his 16 PBUs were unmatched. He was insane. And I watched him at length because I'm a massive college football fan. Shout out to the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But I was also watching the college football playoff. And I watched very closely the guys that were on that Texas team who everybody said was going to win the national championship. Jahdae Barron was easily one of the major standouts on that defense, if not the most impressive one. He is a ridiculous cornerback, and he can do it all. The versatility in his game is unmatched out of all the corners that came out of this 2025 draft. So I'm really excited to watch him play. And you should be too. And if you want profiles on Jahdae Barron and your favorite players, you got to Bronco up and hit that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, it tells me that you're not a huge diehard fan. because we're covering all Broncos all the time here on the channel. So if you haven't already, not only hit that thumbs up button and like the video, but subscribe to the channel. Let's talk about the last group on the defense, the safeties. And the safeties added Talanoa Hufanga. And Hufanga is one of the hardest hitting, most violent safeties that I've seen in recent years. He plays a lot like Troy Polamalu. In fact, that's who he looks up to and models his game after. He said it himself. And the Broncos safety room actually looks pretty damn good considering where everybody's at. Brandon Jones had the best statistical season of his entire career with the Broncos last year. You think that was a coincidence? Hell no. Vance Joseph's got him acting just right. Talanoa Hufanga is going to make an excellent addition with his aggressiveness and his hard-hitting style of play. I do have Sam Franklin Jr. sliding into the backup role behind Brandon Jones, considering they signed him, what was it, March or was it early April of this 2025 season? I forget, but it was earlier on in free agency. And then PJ Locke will obviously sit behind Talanoa Hufanga, a player that I've listed as a trade candidate. But right now, we're not talking about guys that could potentially get traded. We're dealing with the guys that are currently on the roster. Obviously headlined by new player Talanoa Hufanga, who I just stated, one of the most ridiculous hard-hitting and aggressive safeties I have ever seen. I mean, not only does he have great on-ball skills, but when he hits you, it's going to be like a fridge coming at you and just lowering into you. Again, another player that has had some injury concerns, especially the last two seasons. But in 2022 and 2021, when he was healthy and mostly healthy, he was awesome. All-pro player. So when you consider the guys that the Broncos brought in with Greenlaw and Hufanga from the San Francisco 49ers, they obviously knew what they were getting. And remember, this is a team that was just a couple years removed from making the Super Bowl. Key pieces of this San Francisco 49ers defense were just playing in the Super Bowl. So the Broncos obviously view them as players that can take them over the top. And the Broncos defense is already great. Number one on paper for most ESPN and other football analysts. The Broncos have made a complete 180. So I feel like this is a pretty good prognostication of where the Broncos starters and backups are going to be, with some obvious minor tweaks here and there. But overall, it will be the number one defense in the NFL, barring injuries. But if everybody stays healthy, and they all are healthy right now, this will be the number one defense, period, point blank. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't. And as always, be cool. Sweet. Danny in the chat. Ooh, I like that he's getting his hashtag Broncos questions in. A little Von Miller question there, Dilly. Oh, I love that question. I can't wait to answer that. That better be up front. Maybe not first, but definitely up in the front of our... that's a good one. That's a very good one. Considering there has been a recent update on Von Miller, albeit it's very vague. I was reading this article about Von Miller today, and apparently 3 teams are very interested in Von Miller, but no teams were listed. No names were listed. How does that work? You know what I mean? That's another really good question there, Danny. Another very good question. Did you miss the RJ Harvey update? No, you did not, because there hasn't really been an RJ Harvey update. Nothing's really happened. Unless I'm missing something, but I don't think so. I get my push notifications turned on to make sure all Broncos news gets sent directly to my phone, and I don't see anything. But we do know this. There's a lot of still unsigned second-round rookie picks. 30 out of 32 have remained unsigned. And Trey Harris is the first one that sat out. If you missed the video that we put out on the channel yesterday, you can go check that out as well, kind of delving into how all of the dominoes are starting to fall. I'm going to say right now, I still think Harvey's going to show up. I think he won't hold out. But let me put it to you frankly, it wouldn't surprise me if he held out. I'm just going to throw that out there. And that's not just a Broncos issue, as I stated in the video. That's a league-wide issue. So it's not specific to Denver, right? So if RJ Harvey sits out, he's not the only one in the NFL that's going to be sitting out. You see my point? So it's just something to kind of monitor. Oh, it's a great question, Dakota. You know what? I'm going to answer that question right now because I really like that question, Dakota. He says, congrats on all the success, Moose. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. Which Broncos game are you most psyched for this season? If we're going off of a game that I really want to watch or a game that I think is like going to be the biggest testament to the Broncos like strength of schedule, I'll answer it twofold. The hardest game is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles in Week 5. Can't wait to watch that one. The one that I'm most excited for is Week 17 on Christmas, where they play the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll be here for that game as well. Maybe I'll dress up in a Santa suit. I'm not entirely sure yet. I do know this. Can't wait for that game, Week 17, which is it's the penultimate week of the NFL season. And then the week after that, we play the Chargers. Okay, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you subscribe. It helps grow the channel. And if you're ready for Broncos training camp coverage, do me a favor, type those me's in the chat below. Danny's going to see preseason Week 4 against the Saints. And then Broncos at Philly. Wicked work. Wicked work. Broncos training camp has always been, at least to me, the beginning of the next season. I don't consider that the off season anymore. When you hit training camp, it's officially preseason. Danny says me. Michael says me. Is there a particular or specific player that you're really excited to watch during training camp? Someone that you're ready to hear news updates on? Because for me right now, I'm really excited to see how Pat Bryant plays. And I know that sounds, kind of chalky considering we just made a video on him, but the more and more I read about this kid and the more and more that Sean Payton kind of talks about how he views him as like a Michael Thomas, the more and more excited I get. Kenneth says DB4L. W. Chan says, me, moy. Me, moy. Dog says, go Broncos. Go Broncos. All right, remember, we do have another Super Chat deal in case you want to donate to the channel. Again, you do not have to, but it is greatly encouraged, and we'll make sure that we give you a nice little shout-out, put you on screen. If we get to $100 today, on the channel, I'm going to crack open a Four Loko, something I haven't done since college, and start pre-gaming for our Chat Sports Happy Hour event that we have later tonight. We've got some new hires that are in the building. Our boss thought it would be a good idea to take everybody out for a couple hours, have a couple of drinks, and just really kind of get to know each other. So that's going on tonight from 6 to 8. I said to my boss, hey, listen, if we hit $100, I'm going to start pre-gaming. And he said, you know what? Go for it. I greatly support you. So if you want to help us get to our goal of $100, we're already halfway there. We already got a $50 super chat from Boss Man Jay, who is a real one. If you want to help donate, that'd be greatly appreciated. We'll take every cent that we can get. All right. Producer Dylan, if you had to rank Sean Payton out of all of the head coaches in the NFL, like, let's go 1 through 10, right? Would you have Sean Payton in your top 5?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't?
No.
Who's in your top 5 then? I'll pull up the list, he said. Unbelievable. If you don't have Sean Payton inside your top 5, you're not watching football, Dylan. You're not watching NFL football. You might be watching XFL or UFL football. You're not watching NFL football. I'm telling you that right now. You got to have Sean Payton in. If I had to give my top 5, I'd go Reed 1, I'd go Payton 2, I'd go Harbaugh 3, John, not Jim, John Harbaugh 3. I'd probably go McVay 4, Shanahan 5. What do you mean no? Oh my God, are you going to say Kevin O'Connell? You better not have him in your top 5. That would be incredulous.
I'll say Andy Reid 1.
Okay, Andy Reid 1's fine.
2, I might say Sean McVay.
Sean McVay 2 over Sean Payton. You must be outside of your mind.
John Harbaugh is up there. I'd say he's top 10, though.
Oh, Dylan. I respect you, Dylan. You're good at your job, Dylan. But I don't like that take. I don't like that take at all. We've got 43 people watching and 37 likes. That's pretty impressive. That's almost a 100% clip, Dylan.
I'm putting Campbell in my top 5.
Dan Campbell?
Mm-hmm.
What has Dan Campbell done?
Changed the culture of an entire franchise.
He did, but what has he won? Has he won anything?
I mean, Sean Payton won a Super Bowl with the Saints, but not with the Broncos as of yet.
Well, he's only been with the Broncos for 2 years, and he inherited a dumpster fire. You mean to tell me that when Sean Payton took over the Broncos were in a good spot? They had the worst defense in the NFL. They had just fired Nathaniel Hackett, who was he had the Broncos offense rated the worst in the NFL. So they had like the 30th overall defense, and they had the 32nd overall offense. It was terrible. It was a complete shit show. And now Sean Payton has this team potentially contending for a Super Bowl. I think that's pretty impressive. We got a $20 super chat from our boy Danny Cottle. Fan favorite of the show. We'll get you on screen here in just a second, my friend. He's talking about the Broncos shirt. Kenneth, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. It's been a long time coming. We have been together for almost 5 years, and I decided to put a ring on it. She's my lady. I love her. But she also was the one that was like, I really want to get married in September. And the only time that we had to get married in September was the first week of NFL football, which, again, I'm not super upset about. I will have a video for you guys, but I'm kind of upset that we won't be able to do at least week 1 against the Titans for our watch party. But week 2 against the Colts, we'll be here. Here it is. I got the same shirt. Crack that 4 Loco, brother. Dylan must already be drunk with that coaches list. He got you there, Dylan. He got you there. He definitely did. We are just $30 away from cracking open a 4 Loco. Danny getting us even closer and closer to our pregame. Appreciate that, my friend. You are a real one of the channel. Go Broncos. Cannot wait for some 2025 football. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid on this, my friends, and we're going to start up our second segment here in just a second. We got 47 people watching. But I mean this wholeheartedly. This isn't me blowing up smoke because I'm now the Broncos host. This team has a legitimate shot to make a Super Bowl this year. Now, will I say that they're a top 5 team right now currently in the NFL? I don't think that to be true. Top 10? Yes, I do. I got to see more from the offense. The defense is going to be just fine. Offensively, we've got to have younger players step up. I need to see guys like Devon Vele. I need to see guys like Marvin Mims. I need to see guys like Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin really take the next step at the wide receiver position. And then same with R.J. Harvey, and I hope that J.K. Dobbins can stay healthy as well. Audric Estime is another player that I'd like to see take the next step. But this team is so young offensively. They're bound to have at least one player that just skyrockets through. You see what I'm saying? Correct, W. Chan. There is no watch party week 1. I will be getting married in Minneapolis. I apologize. You might be right. All right, let's talk about what we're going on with our second segment. So we talked about the defense in our first segment. Now we're going to talk about the offense, but not projecting the starting offense, not quite yet. There is some game-changing news that I believe the Broncos got on offense. And I'll spoil it for you a little bit. We're going to get into some deep analytics here from our friends over at Sharp Analysis, who believe that the Denver Broncos are really on their way to not only fixing what their major problem was last year in the run game, but also making some minor tweaks to that tight end room with Evan Ingram. Two of the areas the Broncos really struggled with last year on offense, alongside Bo Nix's rookie growing pains that happened earlier on in the season. So, we're going to get into how the Broncos received some game-changing news on offense. This might be the year the Denver Broncos completely changed the narrative surrounding their offensive woes, because they just got some game-changing news before training camp based off of one analytics website. Welcome in, Broncos country, to the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, and on today's episode, you know what we're going to be deep diving into: the Broncos' efficiency on offense. Specifically, in the two areas the Broncos massively struggled with last year, which was the run game and the tight end room. So let's start with the most glaring and obvious one out of all of them, which was the rushing efficiency. It was way worse than we thought. So much so that I've got some numbers that will absolutely shock you surrounding one Broncos running back that is no longer on the team, Javonte Williams. Now, before I get into that, I wanted to kind of give you guys a nice little breakdown of exactly what we're looking for when it comes to asking you guys to subscribe. I realize there's a large amount of you that believe it gets annoying that we kind of ask you guys to subscribe to the channel, but here's why. When you have teams like the Raiders Report, who have made basically triple the videos that we have and have way more subs than we have, but we also see that in certain months like we do in July, where the Broncos take advantage of beating the Raiders, we clearly believe that we are on the upward trajectory, for this channel. So when you guys hit that subscribe button, it not only helps me out, which I greatly appreciate, but it also makes sure that all of the best Broncos content is found right here in the Broncos Breakdown family. So if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Let's talk about football, because that's what you guys came here to see. Let's go back to 2024. Rewind. This is really bad. Like, really, really bad. So Jaleel McLaughlin, who is currently the only one out of the running backs that I believe can offer really any value, at least right now, had 500 basically rushing yards, and Javonte Williams was not much higher than he was. Now, Javonte last year was obviously RB1. There's a reason the Broncos got rid of him. He was bad last year. And I don't mean bad like, oh, he had a down year. No, he was awful. And I've got some statistics that I want to run by you that prove just how much he hurt the Broncos running back room. These are Javonte Williams' advanced stats from Sharp Analytics last year. Just take a look at this. He was 46th out of 46 in running backs' yards after contact per rush. 44th out of 46 running backs in longest rushes. 42nd out of 46 in yards per carry, 39th out of 46 in fumbles per rush, and 33 out of 46 in running backs stuff rate. Meaning, every time he touched the ball, he was basically a non-factor. So the Broncos, just by losing Javonte Williams, gained by subtracting. Now, that's not to say that he's a bad person, and I realize that, when he came to Denver, he was a fan favorite. But last year, my friends, I'm calling a spade a spade. He sucked. He was awful. So it was clearly something the Broncos had to go out and fix by not only adding in the draft, but also in free agency with J.K. Dobbins. So R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins are clearly the two best additions to this Broncos offense. Without a doubt. But that still leaves room for improvement in 2025. So who is going to be the one out of those two that really takes the Broncos' rushing attack to the next level? It's R.J. Harvey. We know what J.K. Dobbins is. He's a very productive RB1 when he's on the field. But R.J. Harvey is still unproven. R.J. Harvey plays the modern style of halfback that you're looking for, the 2025 version of what running back is. And there's a lot of analysts out there that believe that R.J. Harvey is going to be the best addition to this Broncos offense. It's not going to be Pat Bryant. It's not going to be the major step from Devon Vele or Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin. It is going to be R.J. Harvey. And he is one of one in one specific area. Did you know that Harvey was number one in Division I college football last year in yards per carry on outside runs? Meaning, when he's not going through the A gap and he's not going through the B gap, when he bounces outside out of the right tackle or the left tackle, he was number one in college football in yards per carry, 8.2 yards per carry. That's pretty incredible. And if I go back to last year with the rushing outlook that the Broncos had. Now, keep in mind that this is a lot of words on your screen. But essentially what this is it took Javonte, Jaleel, Bo, and Audric Estime, the four leading rushers last year for the Broncos. And it kind of broke down in an advanced analytic where they ranked amongst rushers. Bo Nix is a quarterback, so it doesn't necessarily count. But he did rush, quite a few times. These are terrible numbers. Maybe not from Bo, but Javonte, Jaleel, and Audric Estime did not offer any success. Their success rate was below 40%, and Javonte, who was the number one running back last year on the depth chart, was a 35% success rush rate. That's awful. Saquon Barkley's is above 78%. Now, you don't need to be Saquon because he's the best in the league. But you can't be half or less than half of that. Here's another one. Some more rushing efficiency. You could throw that back up on screen there, producer Dylan. I was just kind of digressing a little bit. That's my fault. If we go back to take a look at this chart that I printed out for you guys. This is all from Sharp Analytics, by the way. Let's just take a look at the rushing efficiency by direction. So they went even further, and they broke this down for you. And they said, here's the success rate that the Broncos rushing attack had when they ran to the left, middle, the middle, and then right end. Clearly, their most efficient run was in through the B gap in that right tackle spot. But there's a lot of red on this chart. In fact, running to the left was brutal. Running in the middle was brutal. So clearly, when you're just trying to gain chunk plays up the middle, bolstering through on third, second, whatever, and short, the Broncos had a tough time moving the football. And that translated over to the red zone. They were 13th in third down conversion percentage in the red zone. That's a pretty good statistic. But their EPA per rush in the red zone was 19th. So what does that tell you? All their success that they're having is coming through the air. So they couldn't run the ball in the red zone last year. Javonte, Jaleel, Audric, they all had problems. And if the defense knows that you can't run the football in the red zone and they start playing pass protection, they blitz heavy when they get down into the red zone, we're dealing with tough stuff. Guys, it's not a good statistic. That should change with J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. That's the good news, is that there is no longer that element of predictability in the Broncos' red zone attack. You can now switch up. You can run the ball more effectively. You can pass the ball more effectively. You can get the play action designed more effectively. It's just basic science. I don't make up the stats. I just deliver them to you. Will the Broncos have a top 10 offense in 2025? Yes or no? I want to say yes. I really, really do. Right now, I think they're hovering right between like 10 and 13. So I'm going to say they do. But right now, there needs to be that little extra something, that little extra sauce that takes them over the top. I don't know which player is going to do that. Hopefully, it's R.J. Harvey. Coming up, I want to talk about another interesting offensive metric. Something that I believe in the tight end room, the Broncos got even better news regarding. And it has to do a little bit with Evan Ingram. Now, before we get into that, my friends, this Broncos t-shirt it's not really a t-shirt, it's a long sleeve, is completely customizable. In fact, it's got a very, very cool fabric. It conforms really well to your body type. And, by the way, summer ain't going to last forever. So once we start getting into the colder months, you're going to really want something that is not only stylish, but also comfortable. And this is where this comes in. Go to chatsports.com/longsleeve. It might be a little bit pricier, but it is customizable. So you can get your name and your favorite number, or your favorite player's name and their number on this Chat Sports long sleeve tee. You can use the link that I put in the comments and description of today's video, or like I said, go to chatsports.com/longsleeve. Okay, let's talk about the 2024 target breakdown for the Broncos. This is in the passing game. So we're not talking about the running game anymore, at least not yet. The wide receiver targets was 60%, which is fine because that's the majority, right? You're most likely throwing to your wide receivers. That's not the problem that I had. But take a look at the next number below. The tight end target percentage was 14%, while the running back target was 22%, meaning Bo Nix had to check down the ball a lot further because the tight ends aren't getting open. 14% of the targets is egregious. That is beyond terrible. Consider who Patrick Mahomes, I know we don't like to use his name, but consider Patrick Mahomes' number one target. It's Travis Kelce. Do you think for a second that if the Chiefs saw that number on their roster, they wouldn't do everything they could to address it? It'd be the first thing that they addressed. And last year, in 2024, the Broncos tight end room, I'm sorry to say, was one of the worst in the NFL, if not the worst. It was brutal. It was awful. But that's why you went out and got a guy like Evan Ingram. Somebody that you could target over the middle of the field. Somebody who will get a high volume of targets and receptions. Last year, got injured. Didn't see the bulk of what he usually gets. But he still got 47 receptions in 9 games played. That was more than Troutman, Kroll, everybody in the Broncos tight end room last year. But this also affected Bo Nix. And if you don't believe me, they ranked 29th in early down efficiency last year. Now, what does that mean? Well, in first and second down, the Broncos had a really tough time moving the football through the air. Why? Because Bo didn't have a safety blanket. He had Cortland Sutton, who's his number one target. But what happens when he gets double-teamed? What happens when he goes up against the likes of a Derek Stingley? What happens when he goes up against Sauce Gardner? Those guys can play. They'll lock you down. You need a safety blanket over the middle of the field, somebody that can highlight play action for you, that will get open so that you can get the ball out into the flat or over the middle of the field. It doesn't have to be for 15 yards. But you need someone that you can throw a 7-yard stick route to. And that's where tight ends come into play. That's where Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes have made their bread and butter. Where Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews have succeeded so well. It's their ability to find openings over the middle of the field and gradually move the football. Evan Ingram doesn't need to be the guy that stretches the field. We've got speedsters that can do that. Marvin Mims can do that. Cortland Sutton's great on the deep ball. I don't need Evan Ingram to run go routes. I don't need him to run skinny posts. Run a stick route for 8 yards. Catch the ball, go down, 2nd and 2, power it up the gut with J.K. Dobbins, move the chains. That is how you methodically win football games in 2025. You don't need home runs every play. But if you hit 5 singles and then the next time you get up, you swing for the fences, odds are you're probably going to connect and it's going to go over the feet or over the fence. I realize that's a baseball analogy, but you get my point. 2025 football doesn't necessarily have to be all fireworks. It can be methodical. It can be relaxed. It can be planned out. And if the Broncos prioritize making sure that Bo has the options to go on earlier downs and get that number from 29th in the league up to about 15th or 14th on early downs, you're going to see far more success and a far more wearing down of opposing defenses in 2025. So go ahead and name a Broncos player that you believe is in for a breakout year. I'll say it right now. I think it's Evan Ingram. I think Evan Ingram is going to be one of the best additions the Broncos have seen in quite some time, especially as a weapon on offense. But let me know in the comment section down below. That is going to do it for us on today's episode. Reminder to subscribe, like the video if you haven't, and as always, be cool. Whew! It was terrible. But, Dylan, what did we do? We got a DB4L Bossman J. Bang! $50 super chat coming in, taking us over $100 for today's show, which means I've got to grab a 4 Loco. Dylan, put yourself on camera real quick. Start giving out some shout-outs. I want to see everybody spam Bossman J in the chat. He said no 4 Locos necessary. I got to do it anyway. Just supporting the show. But please tell people to look out for the Broncos Unchained Energy podcast next Wednesday, July 23rd. You heard it here first. Take a look out for the Broncos Unchained Energy podcast next Wednesday, July 23rd. Shout out to our guy, Bossman J, who came in with the $50 super chat. Unbelievable, taking us over the top, and he's got baby number 1 on the way. You ready to rock and roll, or you still need some time? All right. I'm going to go grab that 4 Loco, and I'm going to start pre-gaming, because things and shit just got real here on the show. That's ridiculous. Awesome stuff. Dylan, start giving some shout-outs down below. Type me if you want a shout-out. I'll be back in a couple minutes.
Alrighty. What's going on, everyone? Moose is going to go get the Loco, but for now, I'm here to give you guys shout-outs. As I see Danny's in the chat. Got Simon, Josh. Who else do we got here? Got Pano Malala in here. And of course, we have Bossman J, who we appreciate so much. But yeah, how you guys doing? It's a nice Tuesday afternoon. Moose will be right back with his 4 Loco. That he's going to have to do some pre-gaming. But yeah. Yeah, Danny, he's doing the pre-game. I just heard him crack it open, actually.
Ooh, I haven't had one of these in college. We're back. Okay. I promised. There it is. Dylan. Cheers to you. Oh! That's terrible, Dylan. Oh, that might be the worst thing I've ever tasted. Oh my God. Okay. What flavor is it? That's what Danny wants to know. Oh, God. Camo? I don't know what camo flavor is. Doesn't really list it. It literally just says camo. It is 14% alcohol, though, per serving. I know. Dude, it stinks. Oh, God. Oh, that's terrible. I mean, that is really, really bad. Okay. How many questions do we have for our mailbag? Got it. Oh. The last time I had a Four Loko, here's a funny story for you guys before we start our mailbag episode. The last time I had a Four Loko, I was a junior in college, and I was at a party, and I didn't know what a Four Loko was. They had them in the cooler. They were $5 a piece. And I didn't realize how much alcohol was in a Four Loko, so I had 3 in one night. I was violently sick. Violently sick. It was the most disgusting and awful hangover I've ever had. Okay, how many do we got?
6.
Ooh. Ooh, not good. Let's get a couple more in. Let's get 2 to 3 more questions in before we start our mailbag. Super chatting or, obviously, hashtag Broncos is the way to get in on the show. You have to use hashtag Broncos, though, if you don't want to super chat and you want your question to be aired. Have to use hashtag Broncos. Anything you want could be training camp related, could be season related, anything you want. Joshua Kirby's getting in with the hashtag Broncos. Great to see it. Let's get a couple more. Let's get 2 to 3 more, and then we will start our final, we'll do our mailbag here. Ugh. I am. It's disgusting. I got to drink another one. Ugh. It literally is giving me goosebumps. Let's get 2 more questions in before we start. 2 more questions. Not from you, Josh. I appreciate it, but we already have you in there. Let's get T-Mac to get a question in here. Let's get Simon to get a question in here. How about you, Daniel? We'll get you to ask a little hashtag Broncos here. There we go. Matthew, appreciate it. Hashtag BFO. Well, it's close. It's very close. All right. All right. I saw it. We're good, Josh. No problems, brother. Hashtag Broncos, Simon, and that'll get you in. I kind of think that's a funny question, too. So use hashtag Broncos. Calling people out. We're going to start up our mailbag here in just a second. And then we're going to take off because Dylan and I have to go to happy hour and have ourselves a fun time. Call it forced fun, if you will. It's not forced. It's not forced. I'm just messing around. Henry, if you want to ask a question, that'd be greatly appreciated. Use hashtag Broncos. I think we have enough for right now, Dylan, where we can get started. If another one comes in, we'll just throw it up there. And if you have to go back to the well and use a double up, just do that, but make sure that they're spaced out enough. You know what I mean? Okay. Let's take one more swig of Four Loko before we start. Another cheers to Bosch. See, it's already hitting me, Dylan. Boss Man Jay, who not only has a baby coming along, but came in with 2 $50 super chats. today. Cheers to you guys. Let's start our mailbag episode here on the Broncos Breakdown. What's up, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. A little mailbag episode here on the channel. My name is Moose, and we do this every single week from 4 p.m. Central to about 5:30 p.m. Central, and that would be about an hour behind in Mountain Time, where we ask we don't ask them, we answer all the most pressing Denver Broncos questions that you guys have, and we're one day away at the time of this recording from training camp, so let's start answering some questions surrounding the Denver Broncos. Josh coming in with the first one. What does Coach Payton have to accomplish to win Coach of the Year? 13-plus wins, AFC Championship, Super Bowl. Please use this one. LOL. Great question, Josh. In order to win Coach of the Year, I think Sean Payton has to at least win the AFC West. So you got to win the AFC West. I would also say that you have to win at least one playoff game. You'd win one playoff game, you can't get blown out in the second. So let's just say hypothetically, the Broncos win the AFC West. They take the third overall seed. They win their first playoff game against, the Chargers. And then they go up and they play a team like the Bills in round 2. They cannot lose 31-7 like they did last year to the Bills. But if they were to lose 31-24 or 31-27, I think Sean Payton would at least make his case for Coach of the Year in 2025. But those are probably the prerequisites. That's just my opinion. Obviously, the NFL feels slightly different than I do because they always have weird rules for all these awards. But I appreciate your question. Matthew, Broncos, I love the show. What is your score prediction for the Broncos-Titan game week 1? I am pumped. I'm pumped too, Matthew. That's actually the weekend that I get married. So I will be here, not doing a live watch party with you guys, but I will be making a recap of the game. I'm saying the Broncos win that game 28-10. Cam Ward has to come to Mile High, his first NFL game. That might be the worst environment to play in for any rookie quarterback, period. That sucks. I don't really feel bad for him, though. I think it's kind of funny. So it's kind of like your welcome to the NFL moment. 28-10, I think the Broncos defense starts to really shine, that week 1. And then the Broncos offense, I think, will take a little bit more time to get started. You'll see the second half of that game where Bo Nix really looks on fire. Maybe a slight growing pain that first half, but I think 28-10 feels reasonable. Thanks for your question. Danny, if Von Miller would take the league minimum, would you sign him to just mentor / a depth role? Keep killing the game, Moose. #Broncos. Great question. So there was a recent, as I'm trying to fix my cord here, there was a recent Von Miller update, albeit it was a very vague one. A fan of DNVR was on their most recent podcast who happens to know Von Miller's agent. And Miller's agent told this specific person that Von has 3 teams that are very interested in him. The Broncos are not one of them. So it won't happen in 2025, to answer your question in a roundabout way. However, Von did go on to say in another interview that he did that he does believe that he'll play for the Broncos again. It won't be in 2025 and it might not be in 2026. But when he's ready to retire, he will come back with the Broncos. And I believe they'll bring him back on for one season. They'll kind of give him the tour that he deserves as one of the greatest Broncos defenders of all time and one of the greatest edge rushers the Broncos have ever had. And they'll have a nice little send-off for him. So it won't be in 2025, but I could absolutely see in 2026 or 2027, something like that happening. Appreciate you, Danny. Thanks for being a fan favorite of the show. Aiden, another fan favorite of the show. What wide receiver do you think will have a breakout? I can't use a rookie here, so I'm not going to say Pat Bryant because you can't have a breakout as a rookie. But I'm going to say Devon Vele. And I'm going to say Devon Vele because he is that big prototypical body that Sean Payton loves. I also think that after last year, you really saw the second half, Devon Vele's, he started to light that flame a little bit. He started to heat up a little bit. He was a player that I believe has the most potential to be a really good wide receiver, too, behind Courtland Sutton. Does that mean that he's going to have 1,000 yards? No. But could he have 60 receptions for 700 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns? I absolutely think so. The Broncos are in a unique position where they don't necessarily need to have 2 standout wide receivers. They can have Courtland Sutton, they can have Evan Ingram as a tight end, and then they can have kind of like a wide receiver by committee for that second, third, and fourth position for their wide receivers. I do believe that highly in them, and they're all very young. So the best is yet to come for this Broncos wide receiver room. Aiden, I appreciate you asking your question. The Bo Lever, cool name. Jauan Jennings in a Broncos uniform. What do you think? Oh, boy. More trade rumors. Okay, let's talk about it. So, Jauan Jennings is a wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers, a team that we have poached from, at least in free agency, with Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw on the defensive side of the ball. But let's talk about the offensive side of the ball, because Jauan Jennings is a pretty good player. In fact, I would not mind signing him as a wide receiver, too. If you could have Jauan Jennings and Courtland Sutton, that is a very good 1-2 punch. However, what he's asking for is way too much. We'll talk about it here in just a second. Our Patriots host, Mr. Brett Alper, came up with the trade idea for the Patriots. And I thought I would at least show this to you, because this is most likely what the compensation would look like for Jauan Jennings. A 3rd or a 4th round pick and a player for Jauan Jennings. Now, I know what you're thinking. Who is this guy? I've never heard of him before, or I've heard of him in limited capacity. Well, when Debo and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle were all at the very height of their powers, Jauan Jennings took a 4th seat. However, with Kittle's injuries, Brandon Ayuk missing out last year on a multitude of games because of his injury, and Debo Samuel getting traded to the Commanders, Jauan Jennings really stepped up and became a very good option for Brock Purdy. Now, that's not to say he's a wide receiver 1, because he isn't. And he's asking for wide receiver 1 money. He's asking for $20 million a year, which is outrageous. I would never pay him that money. I wouldn't pay him a hair over $15 million. Not 1 cent. So I'll ask you this question, because we seem to have a lot of trade rumors here now on these mailbags. Should the Broncos trade for Jauan Jennings? Yes or no? Nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because he wants way too much, and if he asked for like $13 or $14 million, the 49ers would have given him that. But they're not going to give him that money because he wants 20. So it's not going to happen. I'm saying no. Either way, let me know in the comment section down below. Before I get on with more questions, guys, you have to do me a favor. Use the link that I've put in the comments and description of today's video. Go to chatsports.com/long-sleeve, customizable Broncos gear. This long-sleeve t-shirt is very, very cool. It's got a great fabric to it, but it also looks really, really sleek and keeps you warm. Summer's not going to be here forever, my friends. Make sure that you're geared up for the fall and the winter with this link that I'm putting in the comments and description of today's video. Michael, New York Jets just signed quarterback Sauce Gardner to a 4-year deal extension, making him the highest paid cornerback in NFL, passing Broncos cornerback Pat Surtain. Does Sauce Gardner deserve that contract extension, Moose? That's a great question, and I'm really happy you asked that, Michael. Here's my answer. Is it always the case that when a player resets the market, that he or not she, that he's the best player at his position? Does the highest paid player always mean that he's the number one at his position? The answer is no. And I'll give you multiple examples. You ready? At one point, Trevor Lawrence was the highest paid quarterback. Dak Prescott is the highest paid quarterback. Justin Jefferson's the highest paid wide receiver, and he is the best. But my point being that players reset the market all the time. If they're a top 6 or 7 player and they get top-of-the-line money, it doesn't always mean that they're the best player. So clearly, Pat Surtain is better than Sauce Gardner. So does Sauce deserve that kind of money? He might. But that just means that Pat Surtain deserves that much more. Do you see my point? Now, personally, I wouldn't have paid Sauce Gardner that kind of money. But when you consider how much the NFL salary cap is going up and what players are demanding nowadays, it makes sense that he'd be looking at resetting the cornerback market. So, no, I don't think he was worth that much, but I'm not surprised that he got that kind of money, if that makes sense. Thank you, Michael. Boss man. People have talked in length about going to fully guaranteed contracts, but can you imagine if Judkins had already received a guaranteed contract? You're obviously talking about what happened recently with Quinshon Judkins and his arrest. And if you don't know, and you've been living under a rock, Quinshon Judkins, the rookie running back for the Cleveland Browns, just got arrested for domestic violence. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details. It's not a Browns channel, and obviously I don't want to get political on the show. I don't want to talk about what NFL players should or should not be doing. But to your point, boss man, I completely agree with you. This is why NFL teams are apprehensive about giving fully guaranteed contracts. It's for things like this: injuries, off-season issues, and poor performance. Those are the three main reasons you don't get a guaranteed contract in the NFL. We're trending more towards getting more guaranteed contracts, but truth be told, this is part of the reason why NFL teams are like, we don't want to do it. And Quinshon Judkins is just the latest example of why they don't. So I think you're going to see more and more guaranteed contracts coming forth, but obviously this really hurts the Players Association because of Judkins' actions. Simon, does Bo Nix name his firstborn son after Sean Payton? Oh, hold on, I'm going to read this again. Does Bo Nix name his firstborn, Sean, after Coach Payton, leads him to a second Super Bowl victory? So does Bo name his kid after Sean if they win the Super Bowl? It's kind of fun to think about, is it not? Probably not, but you know what? Anything's fun to imagine, so hell, I'll say, why not? If Bo wins a Super Bowl, he is guaranteed to name his kid Sean Payton. Right? I appreciate your question, Simon. Thank you. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. A reminder to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as always, be cool. Whew! It is really, really hot again in here, Dylan. I sweat like a grease pig every time I'm in here. All right. We're going to give you 3 more minutes here until 5:15 because it's 5:12 right now to get your last second super chats in. If you don't want a super chat, do me a favor. If you haven't already liked today's stream, it helps put more Broncos content on your channel. 3 more minutes, and then we're going to get up on out of here. Appreciate everybody who joined today. Shout out to Danny and to Bossman Jay, who sent in some major super chats supporting the channel. That is massive stuff, guys. Dilly, I need a sweat towel when I come in here. I need a sweat towel.
You need one of those like rally towels.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I don't know if no, you know what? Never mind. All right. 2 more minutes to get your last minute super chats in. Again, thank you to everybody that joined today. 33 people watching right now. Josh says, congrats on your child, Boss Man. Thank you so much for super chatting. Josh, appreciate you saying thank you to Boss Man. Boss Man's a real one. Same with Danny. Same with T-Mac. Same with Michael. Nate says, Debo getting traded this offseason, so he was with San Francisco last year, therefore is an all invalid point. What? I'm not entirely sure I know what that means. He was with the 49ers last year, so I'm not entirely sure what he means. Oh, well, that's fine. Does my face look red? The heat is getting to me.
I don't see it.
Oh, okay. For you, Danny. I'm going to take one more swig out of it. Dude, it's not good. Moose put together such a great show. Dylan, really been loving the show since you guys took over. Look at that, Dylan. You got some great praise. Give yourself a round of applause, my friend. You guys want to hear some bad news? Broncos Breakdown just got some bad news. Dylan will not be my live producer during the NFL season. Isn't that right, Dylan?
Most likely.
You're going to be with the Vikings. You're going to be with the Jets.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens. But we appreciate you stepping in and helping us out on Tuesdays when we go live. Here's the good news, Broncos country. And no offense to you, Dylan, because obviously you're great at what you do. We will be getting a new live producer for game day. So somebody that is uniquely Broncos country, and I cannot wait to join the Moose on the Broncos Breakdown. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. At this point, what is today, Dylan? 15th? The 15th. We are 16 plus 31 is 47 plus 7, 54. 54 days away from week 1 against the Tennessee Titans. Remember, Broncos football never sleeps. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, make sure you do so. Like the stream if you haven't already. I will see you guys next Tuesday after a much-needed bachelor party with my guy friends coming up this weekend. I'll make sure to let you know exactly how that goes. As always, Broncos country, mile high salute. Be cool.